What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Hangin with Maddie D. This is episode 31. I got a girl in the house I've been a fan of for a few years now. She's finally down here, I think, full-time. But she's a 4-time CrossFit Games athlete, hopefully 5 this year coming up. But we'll get into that later. But you can find her on Instagram as Abbott the Red. And her name is Emily Abbott. She is a full-time CrossFit Games athlete here in San Diego. She works out in Invictus. But Emily, thank you for coming on. It's going to be fun tonight, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Maddie D.
Of course, yeah, I'm excited. So Emily works out at the world-famous Invictus gym here in San Diego, which is, for those of you who don't know, probably one of the biggest gyms in the CrossFit world, would you say?
Yeah, I can say that.
Yeah, you guys produce, like, mass athletes. Everyone wants to come there and do everything for you guys, and it's, like, phenomenal. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So, about you. So, you're Canadian-born.
Yes.
Right? What brought you down here?
Well, love.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. I met a dude, and he was from San Diego, or stationed in San Diego, and
okay.
So I just kept visiting, and I was like, man, I really like this place. It would be so conducive to training, and then we ended up just moving in together, and so now I'm here. And
taking the leap?
Yeah, just going for it, because, I can train anywhere.
Yeah.
And Canadians are allowed 183 days within the United States, and then I have to go back to Canada, but I'll be back.
Is there a time frame you have to go back to Canada for?
Yeah, I actually think I'm only allowed 183 days within a calendar year. So once I use that up, I can't come back.
So that's pretty much half. Like,
half
was it 6 days, 6 months, 1 day, or something like that? You can do.
Exactly.
That's pretty nuts. But yeah, watch out for that chair. It's a little. We can move the table back too if we need to, just so you can lean it up against. But yeah, that's pretty nuts. So I know you said that your boyfriend was in the Canadian. He was Canadian as you are.
Yeah.
And then he joined the U.S. Navy, and you moved down here, obviously.
Yeah.
Was that a big jump for you to move from
Calgary?
Yeah. So that's what? Is that mid?
That's right. The province, it's Alberta, and it's right above Montana.
Okay. My buddy's from around that area. I don't know exactly where he is, but he's from around the...
Yeah. Once you go north of Montana, it's just black on the map. Like, nobody really knows what's going on.
Yeah, that's what he always says. He says there's nothing going on.
Beyond the wall.
It's like, Oh, also, we'll get into that too. But I already know what I'm going to say. But so as a CrossFit Games athlete, I know you played basketball in college and stuff like that. So what made you transition into working out in the CrossFit world?
Excessively. So I tell this story quite a bit, but I finished my basketball career. It was awesome. We won a couple of national championships. Mm-hmm. I had this really intense French-Canadian coach who demanded perfection, demanded this winning culture, and basically totally kicked my ass into becoming an accountable, responsible human being, which I certainly wasn't before. So once I finished that 5 years, I was like, man, I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I started traveling because I really, one of my goals was just to be a drifter. I just wanted to go check out the world. And so I did that for a little bit, went to Europe, ate, drank, had fun, came back more sizable, I guess. And my boyfriend at the time was like, you should try this CrossFit thing. I think you'd be so good at it. And I started it, and I was like, oh man, this is competitive. You get to grind. I was just a really good grinder when I played sports. You couldn't, I would never back down. So it was just a natural transition for me. And then I went to Indonesia, and I was just surfing and having a good time. And then I got dengue fever from a mosquito bite.
What's that, just a terrible fever?
It's worse than malaria, and I had to be hospitalized.
Oh, really?
I was sick for a month.
Were you by yourself?
Well, my parents were actually in New Zealand at the time, so I knew I was getting sick, and I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here, because I don't want Indonesian healthcare.
Yeah.
So I flew into New Zealand, and didn't have traveler's insurance either. But so I got better there, but I lost 20 to 25 pounds. I was just this skin and bone, so sick. And then every day I got a little bit healthier. I was like, okay, I need to this is my gift, is my body. I need to use it. So I moved back to Calgary, Canada, and just found the closest gym to my house.
CrossFit gym?
Yeah, CrossFit gym. And just said, I want to coach, I want to train, and let's do this.
Yeah.
So I just Yeah, that's
got
what I
into
did.
it that way. I feel like it definitely fills the void for a lot of athletes who come out of college, and it gives you that competitive nature. Even if you're not a games athlete or a regionals athlete, it just gives you that being in the gym, going up against your friends and stuff like that. And I think it just fills that void. And I'm not a college athlete myself, but I can imagine, like, for you, like, you're so used to going to class and then, like, practicing and then going to play games, whereas you do whatever you got to do throughout the day and then you go work out, and it just fills the void for you guys. And
Totally.
I think that's why so many athletes are successful in the sport afterwards rather than someone who's just starting, because they're so used to that lifestyle.
Yeah, but now it's crazy because now we're seeing a shift of like lifetime CrossFit athletes who are like up and coming. They didn't do anything before but CrossFit.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're gonna see like I think a really like distinct shift, and I don't necessarily like. I love CrossFit. Don't get me wrong; it's done so much for me, but I don't know if it necessarily creates the most athletic human being. And for me, especially within the past 2 years, switching to a different programmer, Dave and Jen Swagger out of Calgary, Alberta, I've really realized like I want to pursue athleticism. I want to be able to move in all ways, and to also like cap out like what you just said. It does fill a void, that competitive spirit, but only for so long, and then all of a sudden you're gonna come into a new identity crisis. It's like, well, if I don't compete, then what am I? Yeah. So it's like there's another existential shift. So I think sport is amazing in our lives. Like, it's the coolest thing. It brings people together. It totally makes you understand a lot about yourself, but it has to also be a catalyst for growth of mindfulness and self-consciousness, awareness. Because if you can let it destroy you.
Yeah, you know? Which I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Because,
we see it all the time. People just overtraining or beating the shit out of themselves. And that's cool because, like, that's humans. We just love to, like, push ourselves. But it's like, also, are you working on the other two aspects of your life? The mind and the soul. Yeah. So, I think CrossFit can be a great catalyst for that if we allow it to.
Yeah. You know? I know exactly what you mean because everyone who you'll meet that'll say go to my gym will tell me, I always mess around, but I work hard at the same time. But I've come to the point and the realization, I'm like, I'm 30 years old. I'm not going to the fucking CrossFit Games. I'm not going to regionals. It's not what I do it for. I literally do it to come there and hang out with you guys, but also try to be my best self and work out and do all this stuff while I'm there and get healthier. But I don't look at it where I'm like, oh, I have to do this, like you said, where people get lost in that competitive nature. Like, if I'm not competing, what else am I going to do? Right. Yeah, there's, like, the small competitions around here and stuff like that, but I think there are a lot of people who get lost in that, and they put a lot of stuff, I feel like, on hold, and then they realize, like, I'm not going to do it, but they've already went so far into it that they have to constantly keep doing it, rather than at your guys' level where you're like, okay, I passed the cusp, I'm at that next... You're at the elite level is where you guys are at.
But, I mean, I also got into the sport at kind of the right time, you know? Yeah. I would, like, if I was trying to get into it now, holy shit, that's tough. But even, you know, I've had, like, girls message me, like, you know, I just want to go after my dream of, like, trying to make it to the CrossFit Games. And, like, yeah, a part of me is like, man, like, to be honest, that's probably not going to happen. But I'm never going to say that because they're still going to work hard at something and dedicate themselves to something to hopefully grow spiritually and emotionally if they can create that kind of atmosphere and not go broke trying to get to the CrossFit Games.
Yeah, it's funny you say that you came in at the right time because if you look at the sport, I like to know, I do a lot of research on this stuff, but with you guys and even before you, like the Chris Spielers or like the Jason Kalipa, I mean, those are kind of the bigger names, but some of the small names as well is these guys had like full-time jobs where they were doing this and it was almost like a hobby, but they were a little bit better at their gyms than everybody else. And now those are the ones going to games, and those guys started getting like pushed out because now these people are picking up sponsors who are paying them enough, or they're young enough where they're living at home with mom and dad where they can just work out fully and do stuff like that. Like, Matt Frazier's a prime example. He went to school full time and he worked his ass off and he lived in his parents' basement. He had the time, but some people aren't put in a situation like that. But now I think the sport and the sponsors realize that there's money in it so that it's becoming to where you can't, like you said, you came in at the right time, is where you got in at the early point, as to where if somebody wants to come in now and they don't have that athletic background, it's going to be just, you're not going to go. Almost.
No.
That was a long explanation for what I just did.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just...
But also, like, just to rebuttal your point, is that actually I'm finding it really tough right now to find sponsors and to be supported in the way that I have been in, like, years prior.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could be performance-based. I mean, like, it's a cutthroat. Like, the top 5, top 10 are the people making, like, the moolah. If you're below that, it's just, like, such a steep drop-off.
Yeah.
So that's actually been a really, like, this year especially, it's been tough just because, you know, I moved out of Calgary and those kinds of things.
So did you lose sponsorship, would you say, because you moved from Canada down to the United States?
Honestly, it was just kind of, like, circumstantial. Like,
you
know, company dropped me, and then, you know, I've been reaching out to as many people as I can to be like, hey, like, let's do something together. Let's do a collaboration. You really have to advocate for yourself. It's tough out there, you know? So sponsorships are not like how they were, because I think a lot of companies are seeing that there's not a huge return on their investment. I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot there. But
don't worry, we don't get that many listeners. But
right? But
I know what you're saying, though.
Because it's kind of tough.
Essentially what you're doing is you're pushing product, I think it is. And if you can get all the product, but are the people going to buy it at that price? And do you have that much pull to where they're going to purchase it and stuff like that?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, it's hard. It must be hard. But
it is. It's a little stressful.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
you know, it's stressful because, like, in a given day, I'm like, okay, I have to get all my training in, and then I also have to make sure I'm eating correctly. Then I also have to make sure I'm doing recovery things and stretching and all this bullshit. No, it's not bullshit. It's awesome. But then we have, like, and a lot of CrossFit athletes will attest to this. So, like, you're answering emails, you're trying to get things working. You're working. Some people are working with an agent. You know,
there are.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
For sure. And then you're also trying to book your own travel. You're trying to get things ready for the off season. Like, it's madness for sure. It's very demanding, and it's 7 days a week. It's not just like you go home and you forget about it, right? But I'm not trying to say, like, oh, my life is so hard. It's so rewarding.
No, of course.
The competitive spirit drives me. But definitely it is, like, yeah, it's a little bit tough out there right now. I think we're seeing a little bit of a backlash because there's, like, an oversaturation of the market with sponsorships, and now companies are pulling back. And a lot of companies are leaving CrossFit too, you know? So we'll see.
It's interesting.
It is.
I haven't looked at it that way, but I now that you say that, I'm like, oh wow.
I mean, that's just my own personal perspective.
But no, you can see it though from, like, watching all the stuff on, like, on their show. I'm not gonna say their shows, but their shows on there and stuff like that. Of just, I haven't seen that company before, or like, oh, that company's new, or where'd they go and stuff like that.
Right.
That's interesting though. So when did you realize you were good at it?
When did I realize? Well, so where I went to school was University of Windsor, and I was working out CrossFit Windsor, and I remember I was just like, you know, I had been going to the gym for, like, maybe a couple of months, and they held, like, a little in-house competition, and I was just, like, top of the heap, and I was like, oh, maybe I am, like, I have this, like, crazy aerobic capacity from basketball, because all we did was run, and I grew up on a ranch, so I was, like, always lifting heavy shit.
Yeah.
So it just kind of, like, clicked, and then I had really, like, my boyfriend at the time gave me a lot of, like, direction, and he said, like, you know, you just need to get really fucking strong if you want to be able to get to the games. And I was like, okay. So I just Olympic lifted for, like, the first half of the year, and then I started doing CrossFit in the second half of the year, and then that year, 2014, I made my first games. So which was a huge surprise, and I, like, didn't have any confidence. I could barely string together bar muscle ups, and I
read that on when I was asking a question.
I was at the goddamn CrossFit Games, you know, with, like, Lindsay Valenzuela and Elizabeth Akinwale, and I'm like, what is going on? But it was so cool, right? Because that pushed me to be like, okay, I do belong here. I just scratched the surface of, like, what I can do as an athlete. Yeah. So let's get back to work.
What do you feel like it's a bigger stage? Is it regionals or at the games?
Like, stage or Like, I mean, CrossFit Games is the biggest stage, for
but
sure.
I didn't mean stage. Let me think. The most pressure.
Regionals.
Yeah.
Oh, regionals is a shit show.
Yeah.
Last year, before...
Because you haven't done regionals down here yet,
no.
right? You've always been up in, like, Seattle, or correct, or Washington?
Yeah, it was Tacoma. And then Portland. And, so now in San Diego. It's crazy. Like, last year, I've, like, fucked up a few events, and then right before the last event, I was like, shit, I could not make it. So then I was like, I had been drinking, I think, too many liquid carbs. I, like, walked outside of the venue and vomited everywhere. Like, I'm talking, like, what's that movie where she does the 360, like, heads?
Oh, The Exorcist.
Thank you. The Exorcist. I was kind of like that. I was like, oh! And then I, like, went back in and just, like, crushed it. I, like, blacked out. And then I was there. So it's so stressful, though. And my coaches that were there with me, because I was just so tense all weekend, like, I wasn't all that much fun, but they're like, outside of like the birth of our first son, that was second stressful to that. Yeah. And I'm like, sorry guys, like, I'll do better next year. Like, I won't fuck around. Yeah. But yeah, it's super stressful.
Because you've been 14, 15, 16, 17, right?
Yeah.
So you've been constant.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we'll see this year. It's going to be tough, but I'm up to the challenge. And
how do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, Castro just announced today that there's going to be some fucking ramp and stairs.
I saw that. I just saw that before you came in.
Oh, my God. Yeah. But that's good. I mean, those are the exact... I've been working on weaknesses like that. So, you know, for me, it's going to come down to my mental game. Like, can I just show up, do the fucking workouts, complete them to, like, the best of my ability, and then, you know, get the hell out of there. That's the biggest part of it.
Wow. Yeah. How much does it come into play with you guys for the regionals, when you see all these people moving around and doing all this stuff? Is that all strategic, do you think?
People moving around, like in the leaderboard?
No. Into different regions. Like, they'll compete somewhere. I mean, if that's something you don't want to touch on, we don't touch on it. But that's fine. Like, because you know how you see some guys will go, or girls will go, oh, they're competing out of the South now. Not just with the change in the regional, but there'll be... Some people will go from the South to, like, the Southwest, or, like, the Northeast to, like, the Central, you know, and stuff like that. Do you think that's strategic to ensure that they...
That's a really good question. I've actually never paid attention that much to, like, where anybody is. I just knew that, like, Sarah Sigmund's daughter may have been in our region this year, the West, but she's not. So that was really, like... I think people... I couldn't comment on that. Yeah. I do think people move, like, there are crazy people who move around for the sport, and all the power to them. If they have the finances and the wherewithal to do that, go ahead, right? You still have to put in the work.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So
I just always wondered if that was, like, strategic. Yeah. And like, oh, I have a better chance, these people. Because, I mean, that would take a lot of writing down on paper why I should go here. Yeah. And, you know, to be honest with you, I think some people definitely go that route, I would think.
For sure.
But, so what's it like working out at Invictus with...
It's super cool. So, actually, I used to, until a couple months ago, I was actually living in Mission Bay. Okay. And so I would just... It was hard for me. I don't have a car here, so it was hard for me to get down to Invictus every day. So I was actually training at CrossFit Wind and Sea. Oh, okay. Yeah, and they were so good to me. Like, gave me a key, let me do laundry there. Dan, the owner, would, like, do workouts with me, like, really
That's the one that's in the alley up here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, super, really awesome people. Like, the San Diego CrossFit community has, like, just totally, like, brought me in, and they're so good to me. But working out at Invictus has been pretty cool. It's very intense, and, people are pushing really hard there. And so I actually found, though, that I couldn't deal with that every day. Some days I do just need to work out by myself. Some days I just need to go at my own pace because I just wasn't recovering. I was always kind of like, I wasn't warming up or cooling down properly, which is something that's huge for me. So, but when you need to, like, go have, like, a shit your pants kind of feeling workout, that's where you go. And there'll always be someone there who'll be pushing you, and their workouts are always pretty gnarly. Tino Marini is their main programmer. Okay. So he always puts up some pretty gross stuff. And yeah, it's great. They're so supportive.
Yeah.
They're so nice. There's no bullshit or drama that goes on there. Not that I know of, because I kind of just like keep my head in the clouds.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're great people, and they really do treat you like a family, and they have done so much for me. So it's a fabulous, like, I would say, kind of like Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
It's like one of those little incubators, right, for great athletes.
Yeah.
And they do everything that they can for you, and also give you a ton of great tips, like just about working out in general, like CJ's analysis of.
There's just so much knowledge.
Yeah.
In there, I feel.
You know.
And it's like just everyone that I've met that have gone there is just so well spoken about the sport and what to do, how to do it, when you should do it, and it's just like I can imagine the wealth. Everyone that comes out of there is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, and it's.
Yeah, I do, like, to be perfectly honest though, I have noticed that I like a lot of people, but I think this is just any CrossFit athlete in general. You know, it's just like, man, I can't believe I have to do this workout today. Like, so it's a little bit, there is like some stress, I think, overall, but that's just like training. It's like high cortisol all the time. But even at Invictus is cool because it's like we'll get together and play beach volleyball some days, and like go out singing karaoke, and you know, like people are always down to do something, which is super cool. And like you just said, like the people I have met are like the people I was supposed to meet, like, and bringing me further along on my journey.
Yeah, of course.
Which is super cool. Like the networking that I've been able to do through Invictus is like huge.
I bet you it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just like I'm meeting exactly the right people. Just like right now, I'm sitting here, you know, with Maddie D.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that though. But I'm gonna ask you a few more questions about CrossFit, then I have a bunch of other stuff I want to go into with you. But as we talked about it before, so obviously you're a collegiate athlete and stuff like that, and I just think that CrossFit, and I thought about this for the past couple days, and I couldn't think of anything else, but how CrossFit is, I think, the only sport that the men and the women, I feel now, are held on equal parts. As opposed to any other sport, because you look at like I don't mean to talk down on them, but you have like the NBA and then you have the WNBA. You know what I'm saying? And it's just it's the maybe tennis could be another one now that I think of it, and swimming. But why didn't I think of these earlier? That's what I'm saying. But I feel from what I watch is it's the only sport where you guys are held on the same level, and there's no the guys are better than the girls. And I think there might have been some of that because the girls took a little bit longer to get into it and become the bigger names rather than the men. But I feel like it's a pretty even field. If not, the women are heading it up a little bit more.
Oh, for sure. Especially right now because we have like all these, like a big chunk of chicks who are like so dominant, like Kara Webb, Toomey. Like, it's scary. And it was so exciting, even watching, like, the women's finals. I thought the women's competition this past CrossFit Games, way better. Yeah. It was so cool to be a part of that. And, like, it was intense, for sure. But seriously, like, when I played basketball, I remember when I first got to the program, we were, like, dead last in the country. And people would show up at the end of our games to watch a men's game coming on next. But by the time I was like in my 4th year, people were coming to our games and leaving early because like the men weren't doing very well. So like we would have packed houses for the women's basketball team.
2-time national champion.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It
was sick. And we had like this guy who would like bang on drums every single home game. Like, so it was cool because it was a total meritocracy, you know, like we were good and people recognized that. But leading up to those years, we had a lot of bullshit to deal with like men's team, like them just totally like disrespecting like what we were doing. I mean, God, I can't tell you how many times I've been called like dyke or lesbian because I played basketball, like all this kind of stuff. Like, and then I got to CrossFit and it was just like, whoever lifts the heaviest weight, whoever's like the most well-rounded athlete. And it like, it didn't matter if you were a chick or a dude. Yeah. So that was like super refreshing because like before all of that, it was just always been like, oh, you play basketball, women play basketball, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So it was, such a cool experience to be on a level playing field, getting paid the same as the guys, like getting more media coverage, if not more, because at the end of it, you know, it is a double-edged sword. Women are just nicer to look at, I guess, because we have boobs and a butt and like.
Well, from a guy's perspective, though.
Yeah.
But wouldn't a woman want to look at like let's go like Brian Fikowski's like 6'4", like shredded?
I'd rather look at a chick like I'm straight, but like
Yeah.
I totally would admire more of like the female form, I guess.
Why is that?
Because I guess I know how hard it is to like get to the point where you do have muscle and you do have definition.
But it's harder. You're saying but it's harder for a female to get defined like that.
Totally, it's so much work.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why, I don't know. And also, it's like ass and boobs is like that. Sex sells. We know that, right?
No,
like we could get into the whole like argument of like
when I'm going to say you guys because you do it too, and I'm not saying it in a bad way. When you guys like take your tops off, or you wear like the short booty shorts, and stuff, like at the games, like there is a reason they give you the stuff that small. You know what I'm saying? Because like they know sex sells subliminally.
Yeah.
But also like you guys like working out and stuff like that. I think if I'm wrong,
totally.
If I'm wrong.
I mean, I don't really give a shit because like. The thing is, I've worked hard for my body. I'm super proud of it. And I don't know, I guess like this sexual objectification is just going to happen like regardless. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those tough like gray areas.
Well,
like,
since we're on the topic, I'm going to go into the question I wanted to ask you. So I think it was last year with your controversy. But no, I'm all for this. And Madeline actually brought this up to me because I didn't know this happened, and I pride myself on knowing fucking everything that goes on in this community, but in the CrossFit world, because I do a lot of research, like I said. But so for those of you guys who don't know what happened, is it okay if I go into this?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So you matched right with a guy on a dating app, whatever it was. And he came back at you and was like, "I'm sorry, I don't find you attractive."
He didn't say he was sorry,
okay.
But yeah, we matched and we were talking. I was like, "Oh, this guy seems pretty cool."
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden he sent me a message being like, "You know, like you're not a woman. If I wanted a woman with a bunch of muscles, and I would just go be with a dude, and like, you know, shame on me for like being this way, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
So I was just like, it just pissed me off because I was like, "Fuck this guy!" Like. You know, and I've heard so many stories of girls, like, basically getting told, like, women are told their entire lives that they're not where they should be, right? Yeah. So I was just like, fuck this guy. I am going to post it, and I did not realize that it would, like, blow up, and I was just like, shit. Like, I wasn't thirsty for that, right? It just kind of, like, happened.
But you have to look at it in this sense, too, is you're probably one of a ton of girls in the community, which you know them better than I do, all the girls that are at the elite level and not even that are at the elite level but have phenomenal bodies, is you probably said something that a lot of them have dealt with.
Yeah, for sure.
And they were probably all like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You have to think about it like that. And it's almost, it's like empowerment for you. I'm not trying to say like pro-feminine, you're like pro-feminist, totally, but I mean, it's just like, I feel like that's something that a lot of CrossFit female athletes would deal with on a regular basis because, don't get me wrong, you guys are in like phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's not the norm.
Exactly. And
it's freaky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not wrong, though, in the sense, you know?
Yeah.
And there's no reason you should be ashamed of it.
Oh, totally. Exactly. And I think I was just like, listen, this guy was being a dick.
Yeah.
I'm going to call you out for being a dick. Mm-hmm. And he got kicked off Bumble. But the thing is that, like, yeah, like, so many girls I know that I've talked to, we all have body image issues. And it's like, that's fucked. Because, like, here we are in the gym, like, busting our asses. Yeah. And, you know, that's also an egoic driven, like, ambition as well. Because we're trying to pursue perfection in some way. But that's another story. But the thing is that, like, it's so frustrating because, like, I'll go out to the farmer's market on Sunday, and I just, like, people just gawk, like, they stare, and that, it doesn't, like, piss me off, but it does make me uncomfortable, to tell you the truth.
I bet.
I just feel like saying, like, you, like, what are you, like, what, how, can I help you? Like, take a picture, honey. Yeah. It'll last longer, you know? It does get, like, I don't mean to bitch and moan and, like, say,
but you deserve the right to, though.
But it's just like, yeah, after a while, you're just like, hey, like, I get it. And, like, people whispering and snickering. It's like, it happens all the time. And I'm sure it happens to, like, Margot Alvarez. It happens to, like, Brooke Ants, like everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like all these chicks who are like really defined. It freaks people out, and a lot of people actually are like disgusted too.
You would think that would be different in this area because everyone I feel like is in such phenomenal shape. You know, and like yoga pants and sneakers and shorts and sneakers. That's like the norm when you go to like the farmer's market, especially.
Totally.
But like, no offense, when I see a girl like yourself or any of the other girls who are phenomenal, I'm like, fuck, that girl's probably strong as hell. Like that's that's how I look. I don't go up and I'm just like, fuck, she's probably so strong. And then I like try look. I'll never forget like I was getting my hair cut and this is like we were at the farmer's market. We just got the dog. We walked to the farmer's market. And he's walking like the size of my forearm, and we're walking through the farmer's market, and I like see this girl walking. I'm like, damn, that girl's in really good shape. She walks past me. It's fucking Lauren Fisher. I'm like, Madeline, you know who that was? And it was like Lauren Fisher. She's like, wow, she's in really fucking good shape.
Yeah,
but it's like for I don't know why anybody would look at it in such I mean, there's people obviously like you say who do, but I don't know why anybody would do that because I feel like. You shouldn't judge people, but we're never going to get off that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But
it's tough. And, it makes it tough, too, like, in the dating world, because even explaining to someone, like, what I do is and it's really tough. And even guys, I've talked to dudes as well, and they're like, yeah, I just tell people that I work in the fitness industry. Like, that's just kind of how it is. Because CrossFit really is still, like, kind of this obscure sport. But it's like...
It's becoming the norm.
Yeah, it's becoming the norm. And but yeah, I think it's always going to be kind of this uphill battle for women. I mean, it's just going to be how it is because women are in society, we're told like we have to be a certain way, and basically they're tapping into like those insecurities to sell you more shit, right? So they want to keep you in this egoic driven state of mind, not just like this confident oneness, so I don't know. But we all fall prey to it. Like, I do too. Yeah. It's just like, this is just how it is. So, But I think that's what's so cool about CrossFit because we are changing the way young girls look at the female body. And that, to me, when I get messages from girls being like, hey man, I totally relate to you, like, keep doing what you're doing, like, that makes this all so much more worthwhile.
How rewarding do you find it when people reach out to you like that?
Oh, super, like, man, it's huge, like, and that totally drives me. It's so rewarding. Like, when I see little girls, like, wearing little Abbott, the red shirts, like, damn, like, they're gonna grow up knowing that they're so powerful. Yeah. And they won't have to, like, overcome, like, some of this shit that I had to overcome. They'll be so much further ahead, and it's, like, that really gives me, like, a ton of hope for, like, I guess, the future. Yeah. You're, like, in the OGs kind of, though, of the girls. I don't know.
No, you're definitely OG. Oh, okay. You're not like OG, no, but like in my book.
Not a Stacey Tovar.
No, like her, and then like I do like maybe Lindsay Valenzuela was like a year or two before you, but like you're in like the OG of OGs now. I personally. Crazy. I think that. No,
I know. I just never even thought about that.
Yeah, you are, and you have to think the sport's only been around for what? It's gonna hit 10 years, 11 years as like a sport where people are actually like watching and stuff like that. But it's just I think you're up there. You're on like the.
Oh, well, thank you.
No, of course, I 100% think that there's a bunch of you, and it's so nice that I've never been to the actual CrossFit games, but it's nice that we have the regionals here to where like we can come and like see you guys even if we don't make it to. Yeah. Well, what was LA? Keep talking. Now I'm gonna plug this in real quick.
Okay. But low battery. Yeah, shit. Come on, Maddie D.
I didn't plug it in.
Oh. Yeah, no, that's been super cool. And I was on the Brute Strength podcast not too long ago, and I talked about this book called Pussy that was.
I read your article on that.
Yeah. Oh, my blog.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Only my mom reads that.
I do research. I'm telling you.
That's impressive. And then this chick reached out to me and she's like, hey, I read that book, mind blowing. I grew up with a lot of like Catholic guilt. This is helping me heal that. And then I talked about like yoni eggs on that too. And she's like, I got a yoni egg. This is completely transforming my life and like with my partner. And I'm just like, holy fuck. That is like what I want. Like that's exactly what I want. If I can like help educate women on you know, how to live mind, body, and soul, like that to me is like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else? Because don't get me wrong when I say this, or don't get mad at me. I kind of look at you as like, I want to say hippie, but I don't want to say it in a derogatory term. But I want to say you are very free spirited from everything I see, everything you do, and stuff like that. I think you're very like free spirited, and a lot of people in the community I feel like don't have the same outlook on life. And I'm not dimming down anybody's way on life or what they do or anything like that, but I just think you have a very free spirited and different mindset than a lot of the people.
Yeah, I guess like for me, and I've talked about this with some people before. It's just like yeah, training's awesome, but I've learned that the more I try to be robotic and perfect and regimented, the less happy I am. So I was just like, you know, I'm always wanting to get out there and like really experience the juice of life. Yeah. Whether that's hiking, taking a dance class, going to do something crazy. Like to me, that is life, and like that I'm always pursuing embodiment, which is basically like that oneness, you know, that you feel with the universe. And like when I get out in nature and use my body in nature, that's exactly like that divine inspiration, I guess. So I love CrossFit, and I did get swept up into this world because I love being pushed. But as I've grown further in this, I realized, well, actually I love just adventure and connection with other people, and achievement was on there for me, but now I think I'm in this kind of shifting space where I'm realizing that all the accolades and achievements and certifications and those don't mean anything, and they won't make you any happier. So I'm realizing that you just have to really go after like the juice of life.
So this is gonna sound stupid. I'm stupid that I asked you.
No stupid question.
So what you're talking about right now, I feel with like Ronnie Teasdale. Do you know who Ronnie Teasdale is?
Yeah, I know Ronnie.
Yeah, so he is like just his mind. I'm very drawn to it, which I think a lot of people are. Cause he just thinks before he says a lot of the stuff, and he thinks stuff outright. But I feel like he had that realization like maybe 1 or 2 years ago. I remember he went to regionals down here. He had like a pair of like cut off jean shorts, and he's like, he didn't work out, I think, whatever leading up to it. And he made he's like, fuck it, I'm just going to do the workouts, make regionals, just to show people that like you don't need to be robotic and do all this stuff. And he made the game, like the regionals. I don't think he made it to the games, but just to make it on the regionals, that's a level on itself. And he now I follow him, and he's got like his long hair. He's like one with nature. He's doing everything you're saying, and I think he found himself, and he just seems like a lot happier and stuff like that, rather than he got wrapped up in the world for a little bit, and then he figured he did what he wanted to do with it. And
well, it's interesting because I think anybody who pursues really like next level, high level shit, Olympians, snowboarders, skiers, like all those kinds of people, runners, anybody who's doing ultra marathons, they have a very dark passenger, a very, very dark passenger. And they're working out excessively basically is masking that or feeding that in some way, or like quelling it.
Are you talking like you're not saying a person, you're talking about like something that's going on with them from their past and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like a perfect example, and I'm not saying all of us do, but if you talk to anybody in CrossFit, especially females, we're coming from something that's a little bit dark, you know, like we're working out this much.
Yeah.
Not for pure love all the time. Sometimes there's something else going on. I'm not saying all of them, but this is what I've noticed, kind of a trend. And because to push to that level of pain all the time, it does require like a little bit of psychopathy, I would think, you know. And there's this saying I love, I forget who wrote it, but it was like, it's heroes and psychopaths are on the same genetic branch. And I guess that's just also showing like the duality of men. Like we're super intense and like fucked up, but if we don't like learn to be on the other side of that, which is chill it out and relax, I think it can get like unhealthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
When you just get so wrapped up in it.
Yeah, but it's cool because like all of that drives you to be like this exceptional being, right?
Yeah, but I think it could also be like almost bad for your health. Do you think?
Totally.
With just and I always say, and I've talked about it before on the podcast, but how yeah, you have all these followers and all this stuff, and people are following you, people are getting in, and it's a new age where all these people are coming up, but in the sport, but people don't. I always say this: people don't realize that when ex-athlete shows a 280-pound snatch on Instagram or something like that, and I think because it might be straying off a little bit, but people depict it a little bit differently, I think, to where you're only seeing these people lift so much, and their best lifts, and then you don't see the hard work they put into it and stuff like that. And I think people get too wrapped up in he hit a 245, 250 snatch. I got to hit a 245, 250 snatch. But you don't realize what he puts in to hit that snatch, or how many times he did it to, and what, like, the pain and the suffering he goes through to get to that. It's not just like, he walked in the gym and picked it up. But
totally. I mean, comparison is the killer of happiness. So it's like, and social media is pretty rotten for that, but that's why you have to have a really good perspective, you know.
You have so many good sayings. I gotta get better saying, like metaphors and stuff like that.
Oh well, man, I'm just full of shit.
No, but you have like really good. Everybody comes on here, man. I'm like, fuck, I have no like good metaphors to talk. I talk out of my ass half the time and stuff like that.
Yeah, but you have a sick Jersey accent.
I do, see, you realize it, yeah, but a lot of people, some people don't, but
really?
realize it. But yeah, if I get passionate about something, but then I'll talk. So you started also, like we were talking about Free Spirit, Psychedelic Gypsy Fitness?
Yeah.
So is that are you trying to just show the world what you pretty much just said? Like, I don't need.
Yeah, like I would say, like, I mean, through a series of really interesting events and people I met, and some psychedelic experiences I had, I realized, like, CrossFit is totally this amazing platform that's given me a little bit of a voice within the community, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna keep being my authentic self, but for me to like be that way, I want to like kind of veer off to maybe a different
so then you're not just a CrossFit.
Totally, yeah. Because I do feel like I have so much. My whole thing is pursuing this embodiment, and like I do a ton. Like I'm trying to figure out a lot of this emotional healing work, and like becoming more mindful, getting disconnected from this like constant like chitter chatter in my brain. So yeah, I guess this is like, and me and my man, like we basically, he's a really trippy dude as well, and so we kind of created this YouTube channel, and we're just having fun with it, and it's like, there's no.
What do you think this is?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There's no definition. It's just like, and we don't really have like, how are we adding value to people's lives? I don't know, but we're just expressing ourselves, and it's super cool. So it's been a really like fun journey, and we're gonna continue.
Yeah, and you're doing it together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys like would have like a VW bus. Like,
oh, it's so funny you say that. We're like actively trying to find some kind of. We want to live in an RV.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what that means yet. Like he's getting out of the military soon, so everything's up in the air.
I had a guy that did that by us. He got out of the. Well, I was in the Navy, but I worked with the Marines, and he got out of the military and he bought an RV, like a nicer. I think it was a Winnebago. It had like the car front with, but it was you could all go through, and he parked it on the beach up at Camp Pendleton and just stayed there for like 3 years. Him and his wife and his dog
for like 3 years.
Yeah,
oh my god!
They just would just. That's how the life he wanted to live.
Yeah, totally. I think like, for me, even with like sponsorships, like I don't want more stuff. I don't need more things. Mm-hmm. The more you have, like, the more it owns you. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I just want simplicity, I guess. And I think you can do that. And I'm inspired by a ton of people around me who do all those kinds of things. And I think a lot of people are realizing, like, they're not buying into the whole system anymore. And they want something a little bit more alternative. So, I think there's lots of cool opportunities out there to...
Yeah, there's so much fun shit to do.
Yeah. Just not enough time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go back to CrossFit for a little bit, and then we'll wrap this thing up. But, so, with you making the move, you've obviously been to the CrossFit Games a few times, and going from, this is my question, so I don't want to hear, but, and going from LA to Wisconsin, was that a big...
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, like, it wasn't a huge transition, but, like, if I have to be perfectly honest, and I like to be perfectly honest, it was kind of, like, a little bit of a bummer, because even at post-Madison games, like, it was cool. There was components. There was pros and cons. I miss, like, California just seems so quintessentially like CrossFit.
Yeah, of course.
And then we go to Madison. Of course, there's going to be kind of like this transitional time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really cool, like snatching in that stadium, doing workouts in that or the Coliseum. Like that was super cool. It was loud. It was electric.
Yeah.
They CrossFit did a phenomenal job of making that transition and like making sure Madison was a hit.
Yeah.
They worked really hard. So, but I do miss LA. For sure.
I just feel. I know what you're saying. I feel like whenever I think CrossFit, like I always think Southern California.
Yeah.
Like California, it's where it starts, the birthplace. They're definitely gonna have to come back here eventually.
You think so?
Not like soon, but like eventually, I think they'll definitely have to come back.
And also, like the weather didn't cooperate. Like, well, but
Madison. Also if it gets hot out there, it's gonna be humid as fuck, and then you guys are gonna be miserable.
Yeah.
And
totally.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I wish I could have went to. I've been up there like a million times when I was in the Navy because it was like the boot camp and then school was up there. But yeah, I like it. But I was just it's just a different vibe and stuff like that.
I will tell you though, like Madison's a super cool city. Like in terms of people are just health nuts over there.
Yeah,
everyone's just like old dudes are just running around.
Do you think that, or do you think that people? Oh, you're talking about like the Navy. I was gonna say because I feel like everyone thinks that they're like the best. When they go to like the, you know what I'm saying? Everyone thinks they're the fittest and like the fan wise. I might get retro, but you're talking about like the city of the people.
Yeah, like the local population.
Yeah.
There's just like old dads and like, you know, those sweet New Balance like marshmallow
just
kids.
Like running around.
Yeah, just running around. So, I don't know. It was a cool city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it'll ever go to Europe?
No.
You don't think so?
No, do you? But you're the guy who does all the research. So.
I don't think so because I think there's too much money here.
Yeah.
I think also though that obviously there's a bigger need for it. And everyone I've talked to says there's a way bigger push for the CrossFit world and the community in Europe. They say it's like big here, but it's like way bigger there. And I think we saw that obviously they changed the regional and they've done all that different stuff. And there's obviously there's different things, you know, that come into retrospect because if they're opening up another, I think region, I think is what they did over there and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't think it'll ever go over there, but I think it's kind of unfair because if everyone says that, oh, they have such a big following and it's bigger than the United States, I don't know if that's 100% true, but if they do have that, then it's like almost unfair to the athletes over there, you know, because they have to think about how much they have to pay.
Oh, yeah.
To where here we're like, oh, it's like, oh, $500, $600 max to get there, right? And it's not that huge of an airport too, Madison. It's not like a huge hub. So to come from like Iceland to fly you're gonna have to fly to like New York or Chicago, and then from there you're gonna have to go to where you can. Yeah, so it's kind of unfair, I guess, and for if there's such a big fan base out there and stuff like that. But I think also a lot of the sponsors are United States based. Rather than,
there you go. There's follow the money for your answers.
Yeah, but. Yeah, I won't keep you any long, Emily. But I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
How do people follow you and do all your stuff?
All right, so follow me on Instagram at Abbott the Red and also Psychedelic Gypsy Fitness.
Yes.
Get my YouTube channel, Psychedelic Gypsy Fitness, and where else? Twitter's Abotsky439. I'm sorry I'm not on there a lot.
I hate Twitter. I don't know how to use it.
I don't either. I'm just like such a loser. And then Facebook, Emily Abbott. CrossFit athlete.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
But Emily, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I'm really glad we got to do this.
Yeah, Maddie, this was super cool.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, definitely. But guys, thanks for listening. Subscribe. Hit the little thing down there on YouTube. But guys, till next time, adios.